With internet. I don't know if this is going to be clear enough or not, but we're going to give it a whirl. I've tried this from so many different locations, and it doesn't matter where I go. It's just not great connection. Whatever's going on with Facebook is kind of different. Hopefully, if you couldn't hear me at the beginning, you can hear me now. I am so excited to talk today. I say that every day. I'm always excited, but anytime I get to talk about Genius Hour, I really am excited, and I love to talk about the 6 P's of Genius Hour specifically. And today we're going to be talking about purposeful planning and what that looks like. Yesterday we talked about passion, and so if you're just watching this video for the first time and you're just hopping into Genius Hour in 10, you can go back and watch all of the videos that I've shared so far. Again, we're on day 4. Today we're going to talk, like I said, about purposeful planning. And passion is exciting. The kids have so much fun gearing up for their projects. And after you've kind of done that, they're ready to go. And so this part of the process is so important. But if there is any part of the process that they're going to want to skip, this is it. Because if you think about it, you've gotten them excited, they've thought about their passions, and now all of a sudden you're putting the brakes on and saying, okay, before you get started, we have to do a little bit of planning. They're not going to be super stoked about that. But helping them understand how important this piece is really valuable and will help them later beyond the walls of the classroom. So helping them think through this, telling them just to plan, just like passion. If you just say, hey, what are you passionate about? Chances are you're not going to get anywhere. So we have to be purposeful about this. We have to be intentional, and we have to help them understand, what does purposeful planning look like? And so I always asked my kids 3 questions when it came to planning their projects. First of all, what materials do you need? What materials are you going to need? How long do you think the project is going to take? And who is your outside expert going to be? So let's kind of dive into each one of those. So thinking about materials, I would always ask them, what materials are you going to bring? And what materials do you need me to have here in the class? Or let me tell you what materials I have, and then we can decide what we need to get from home or what we need to have donated or whatever that's going to look like. And that was a big part of Genius Hour, because if they don't have what they need to work on their project, they're eventually going to be frustrated. Then thinking about the time piece, how long is this going to take? So many people do Genius Hour differently. We all do it different, whatever works for our classroom and our learners. For me, I didn't want to dictate how long their projects could be. And that was just because all of their projects were so different. So for example, if I would have done the 6 weeks thing, so if I would have said you have 6 weeks to finish your project. Well, I had one group of girls, there were 2 girls who were working on a 5K that they were creating, designing, and setting up for our community to run to raise money for local animal shelters. Well, there was no way they were going to finish that in 6 weeks. So I never dictated. I did for a while. But once I realized that didn't work, I stopped dictating how long their projects needed to take. And because it was a cycle, the 6 P's of Genius Hour are a circle, when they finished presentation, they just moved back into passion. And so I didn't worry about how long their project took, but they did have to tell me, at the beginning, do you think this is going to take 3 weeks? Is this going to take 6 months? What are we looking at here? And that teaches them so many skills, time management. It helps them kind of be self-aware of where they are in the project, and, referring back to that, like you said, this was going to take 6 months. We're on, month 8. What are we doing? And having those conversations, it's a really good idea, I think. But again, everybody does it different, and that's not a must. That's just the way it worked in my classroom. And then thinking about outside experts. Now, we're going to talk about outside experts when we get to project, and they're not actually talking to their outside expert here. Instead, what they're doing is they are telling you who their outside expert is going to be, so that you can start looking for those experts. You are probably not going to find an outside expert for every student. If you do, more power to you, but it's a lot of work to find outside experts. And so I always had a goal of finding 5 or 6 outside experts each round of Genius Hour. And so if they didn't have an expert their first round of Genius Hour, they were definitely my priority the second round of Genius Hour. You see how that kind of worked. And sometimes they found their own experts, sometimes their parents helped them, but we also had something called a help wanted wall, and we created that on Padlet. And so I actually have a blog post that walks you through exactly how to do that and how to set it up. totally free. I shared that Padlet out on Facebook. I shared it on Twitter. I shared it with our local colleges, the department heads of our local colleges, Baylor University. And we had so many outside experts, and I even had a Google form that they would fill out if they wanted to be our expert. So I'll share that resource with you so that you'll have that. Feel free to check it out. Ask me any questions that you have about it. That's what this is all about. I also think that if I was in the classroom now, I would add this to my list. So what materials are you going to need? How long do you think the project is going to take? Who is your outside expert going to be? And I would also ask, who is your thought partner going to be throughout the project? You know, I just did a series over on my podcast, and I wrote a blog series on thought partners in the classroom. And I think they could play a huge role in Genius Hour. And so I wrote a specific post about thought partners in Genius Hour, and there's even some thought partner cards that you can print out. So you can check that out over on my website, andymcnair.com. I'll put the link to the blog post down below, but those cards that you can print out, they're in the blog post, or you could go to my shop. So just andymcnair.com, click on shop, and then you'll find those cards where you can just download them for free and print them out and use them. And I have it to where there's questions for each part of the Genius Hour process. But having a thought partner, you know, so many teachers tell me my students get hung up, or they don't know how to move forward. And I know that for me, I have a thought partner who helps me do just that. When I get stuck, she helps me move forward. She helps me think about things that I might not think about otherwise. She helps me see things from a different perspective. So having a thought partner myself has really helped me see how beneficial that is. And so I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys resources to make that available to your students, because I wish I could have learned how valuable that was when I was in school. Man, if I would have had a thought partner throughout my entire life, things would have been great. But I really like that idea. And again, those resources are definitely there for you and totally free. So check those out. So planning is important, but it has to be purposeful planning. You cannot just say to your students, okay, I want you to plan what you're going to do. That will not work. Instead, what you have to do is you have to ask them those questions. What materials are you going to need? How long do you think your project is going to take? Who is your outside expert going to be? And you can also add, who is your thought partner going to be? So thinking about those things, it's really important to consider this piece. And planning, one of the things that, there's a great Forbes article, and I'll link to that below too, where they talk about some of the things that the real world wants graduates to be able to do. And one of those is to be able to plan and organize. And so this is a really great opportunity for them to practice doing just that. So don't skip this as much as your students are going to want to. Make planning a priority. If you have any questions about this, if you have other ideas you want to share, please feel free to share those in the comments below. I'll post the reflection questions a little later. I'm going to drive home and then post those, but those will be available this evening. And I just want to say thank you again for joining me for Genius Hour in 10. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about pitching ideas and what that can look like. So when they pitch, we're going to talk about pitching Shark Tank style, and we're also going to talk about bringing Flipgrid into all of this, which I love to talk about because, man, it is a big tool in the Genius Hour process and can really help you create a process that runs itself. So I'm really excited about tomorrow. If you want to know more about Genius Hour, if we're not going deep enough, and I'm probably going to say this every day, but you can hop over to my website, andymcnair.com, click on Genius Hour, and there are tons of resources, including the 6 P's of Genius Hour online course that you can check out and see if that's something you might want to explore as well. You can always get 10% off of that. You guys can by using the code A Meaningful Mess. I don't think I said that yesterday, but if you use the code A Meaningful Mess for Genius Hour in 10 and my podcast listeners, you guys get 10% off of the course. So let me know if that's something you're interested in or if you have any questions. But again, if there's something you just want to know or something you're wondering, pop that question below and let's talk about it. If I don't have the answer, somebody else might. That's what this is all about, is about collaborating and learning together. So thank you again. Have a great afternoon. I will see you again tomorrow, same time, same place, 4 o'clock, maybe a little after, depending on the Wi-Fi situation. But we'll be talking about pitching in the classroom.